You've Got a Friend is a really great two of a kind episode, and a little bit different for me watching it now because it actually features Kimberly J. Brown as a character called Nicole. And I'll talk more about her and the character of Nicole in a moment. But when I was watching Two of a Kind as a child, I wasn't aware of Kimberly J. Brown's work. I hadn't seen Quince or Halloween Town, but I've now seen those films, so it's kind of cool to actually see her in this as well. And the actual episode is all about friendship. It's the eighth episode. It's directed by Richard Correll, and I'll get in with the main narrative that involves Ashley and Nicole in a moment, but we also have a similar narrative insofar as it deals with friendship with Kevin and Eddie. Eddie gets some tickets to a show that he and Kevin want to go to, and Kevin complains a bit because the seats aren't great. But he doesn't acknowledge the fact that Eddie stood in line forever to get these tickets. And of course, this is the day before buying tickets online was the way to go. And Carrie observes this and she tells Kevin that that wasn't a very nice way to treat Eddie. And Kevin just dismisses it and says that's how they are, that's what they do. And Eddie feels the same way when Carrie talks to him about it separately. But then, because she's planted that seed, Eddie begins to realise that actually Kevin isn't pulling his weight in the friendship. And I won't say exactly what happens with that part of the narrative, but I think it's a really great story that deals with equality in friendship. I think it's very easy, not necessarily intentionally, but for one person in a friendship to do more of the work, to either be the one who always makes the phone calls or always comes up with the plans for them to do things. And actually, that's not very fair. And if anybody watching it reassesses their friendships and just tweaks things a little bit so it's a little bit more fair, I think that's a really great thing. The main narrative involves the fact that Ashley has a new friend called Nicole, played by Kimberly J. Brown. She's in it a decent amount. She's not in it loads, but she's in it enough that I was happy with. And Ashley has been spending a lot of time with her. But more than that, she's been neglecting Mary Kate. They had plans to go and get pizza. Ashley forgot. They were going to see the new Ben Affleck film together. Ashley went with Nicole instead. And she doesn't really realise that she's not treating Mary Kate very nicely. And Mary Kate decides to take drastic actions. And I won't say, again, I won't spoil it, I won't say what she does. But what I really liked about this is that as soon as she did it, as soon as she did what she did, she realised it was not a nice thing to do. And you could tell from her facial expression that she didn't enjoy doing what she did, but she felt desperate because, as she says in the episode, she felt like she was losing her best friend. And I wonder if this story maybe hit a little bit too close to home for Mary Kate and Ashley. I don't know that at all. I don't know if that's the case, but I would imagine that when you are in a close sibling relationship, if one of them suddenly, as they get a little bit older and they start to gain more independence, one of them is probably going to try and break a little bit away from that more than the other. And it must be difficult to deal with. I don't know, I'm not a twin, my siblings are not close to me in age, but I could imagine that that's a lot to deal with. But even if you can't relate directly, I think it's a good look at what might happen if you're in a friendship group and one of you gets a new friend. Are you neglecting your other friends? Are you letting them down? Are you favoring your new friend a little bit too much? So even if you're not a twin, I think there's going to be an element of relatability there for some people. I'm sure most of us have been in that situation at one point or another, whether we're the person who's being neglected or the person who's doing the neglecting. But certainly food for thought, and something that can encourage us all to evaluate just how good of a friend we actually are. It's a good episode. I really liked it. Having Kimberly J. Brown in it meant it was just something a little bit extra special, and I rather liked it. You've Got a Friend is a really good episode with some really great messages.